Hmm. Well, let's get going, eh? Tim, you're a new face. Tell us where you're up to with this stuff.
Oh, I don't know if I'm in an impasse or what, but I've did 20 years on a spiritual path with a guru, left that 20 years of self-inquiry, had a recognition that awareness was as much an aspect of my being as thinking and feeling and the body and the mind, and been struggling with that ever since. It's become increasingly difficult to read books, to listen to speakers, participate in meetings. But I'm still compelled to keep moving forward.
So let me paraphrase you. Are you saying that seeking's still there, but there seems to be some frustration or uh, something about the reading and watching, etc., that it seems to be a bit futile, or what? What?
Yeah, it's gotten it. Well, I do have an affinity for it and an interest in it, and it occupies a lot of my free time and whatnot. I did reach the point about last year where I think I was asking Pernella something, and on her YouTube channel, and she said the answer's not found in the comment section. And I had a lot of subscriptions. I got a lot of books. I got a lot of interest and effort and attention. And I went, I need to put down the spectator here. I need to get off the stands and get in and play the game more seriously. And the non-dual, nothing to do message is coming up a lot lately. But there's a fear of letting go, that the only thing that's holding me on is the seeking.
Right.
And that if I drop the seek.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it?
Hmm.
So you would it be accurate to say that you have a story that if you drop the seeking, nothing will happen?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
That, success means effort. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what my first guru even said, success means effort. Don't neglect your practice under any excuse. And
Yeah.
40 years later,
Yeah.
there's millions of us out there that are still sucking on a rock.
Absolutely. Yeah. Millions and millions. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, what comes up for me here is that all of that efforting is exactly what's stopping you from getting there.
Hmm.
Mind you, nothing's stopping you, but it gets in the road. Yeah. The thing that we look for as a seeker is almost always an epiphany, something, a shift, and something that experience that tells us that we've got it, whatever that means. So we do all these things trying to stimulate some kind of an epiphany to get there. Yeah. Okay. How did you find Pernilla?
Interesting. I can't take her in large doses. I got a little bothered with the what are those, like 7 fetters, the fetters, and I was like, oh great, another level of astrology to have to learn, another level of interest to put my attention on. And with her and Angelo, they're more on a Buddhist line, and I've been heavily on the Vedantic line. And it's like, okay, are you just crossing the street to another school? here, what can you genuinely, what'll cut to the quick, so, I try to sit through some of the frustration and the effort, and I find myself, wandering off and thinking about mundane things, and, I got to do the laundry or
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot. So I take it in small doses.
yep, yep. But there's some kind of resistance is a word that comes to mind
Hmm.
about that. As you say, going to another school, trying something new. It all gets a bit boring, doesn't it? In a way, just yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like you're cutting a diamond from a different direction.
Mm.
It's like, God, I got to learn another 20 years of something else. You know.
Okay, so what if we reassign meaning for all of those paths, all of the, whether we're talking about Advaita or Vedanta or um, um, any of the Buddhist paths, the fetters, I find the fetters somewhat useful, but they're not a path. They're just a concept that we can use to look from a certain perspective. And they can be useful or they can be a hindrance, depending on how you feel about them. So, anyway. All right. Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting when you're talking about that. I'm thinking, I wonder if I belong to any of those schools. I think I don't.
It's like those old kung fu movies, you think you're the top, the rooster on the turd pile until you get your butt handed to you, and then you go to the next guru and learn his kung fu, and by the end of the movie, you're standing on the turd pile.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I see all this is, it's really fundamental stuff, it's really basic stuff. And I don't know what it belongs to or where it comes from. I don't think that really matters. I had, like you, I had 40 years of seeking before I
Mm.
had a shift. And I would say that everything, including the stuff I felt bad about, contributed in some way. It all adds up to something, and in a lot of cases it can add up, or while we're still seeking, it can add up to a bit of an impasse as well. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Well, as we progress through this meeting, you'll get a bit of an idea about where we're coming from, and we'll poke the bear. We'll put you on the spot,
Oh,
and
good.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. My goal is to not uh, bring any bitterness to this. Um,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
do have a big irreverent side of me.
Yeah, good. I
But
love that. Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
but sometimes, that stick gets up your butt and someone's got to pull it out for you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that irreverence is a good perspective to see things in a clean way, in a fresh way. You're not gonna we're not the problem with the non-dual stuff is that it's a bit like a religion, it wants you to have faith or something like that. A bit intangible, that one. So yeah, no. I'm going to be talking about sensations and stories. They're the two main things that I see as the big thing. And stories abound for all of us. It's stories all the way down. Somebody said it's turtles all the way down, but it's actually stories all the way down, I reckon. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Don't be polite. Don't ask for permission to talk. Jump in if you've got something to say. and everybody's got something to say. Okay, whether you think you're there or not, what you say, somebody will get value from. Almost for sure. Yep. And you've got a couple of other people besides me here who I hesitate to describe these this thing, who are awake. So you got a few guides here, and there's great opportunity. But whether you're a guide or not doesn't matter. You know, you know, a seeker will say something, and somebody will get something valuable out of it. It's absolutely amazing the amount of feedback I get from people who have watched the recording and said, "Wow, I had a shift as a result of watching that," or something really struck home for me. So yeah, people will identify with you regardless of where you are. Yeah. So tell us how you've been traveling, David. You're muted. Yep.
I meant to join in the other meeting, which would have been 3 a.m. my time. So I went to bed early and set an alarm and fell asleep. And about after a couple hours, I woke up and the mind got going. And basically, I didn't get any sleep after that. So when the alarm went off, I just kept sleeping. But what was going on was rehearsing what I was going to say.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And so that got me looking at this habit of setting up a straw man to talk to in the mind, and it's just going on a lot, and it could be a therapist on the other end, it could be a group, a person, and so it's pretty easy to see what's going on there, that it's a character looking for validation. As I'm rehearsing that, it's basically an effort to perform well and to show insight and be approved of, and basically using that straw man or audience, whatever, this internalized other, as a mirror that will reflect back what I need to, the image.
Yep.
A comforting image that so I can see that the original mirror is the mother, and if that relationship didn't provide that, in that mirroring, if it wasn't communicated, if value and approval and acceptance wasn't communicated in that relationship, it just sets the character on a lifelong mission. Yep. to fill that void. And I can see that very clearly. It's been playing out my whole life. I can, so that is the primary dynamic, I think, that goes on internally.
Right. So how do you feel about that happening?
I can see that it is basically the dream life that keeps me trapped, or keeps the illusion of entrapment, and I believe that that's what awakening is. When that structure falls and there's the need for that is just not there.
So what if I told you that structure will never fall? Could you live with that for the rest of your life?
I think I could live with whatever I need, whatever. I would have no choice. Yeah, I could. I can. Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't answer my question. How do you feel about that stuff happening?
Well, discontent, in terms of direct experience feeling. It feels like turmoil.
No,
Yeah.
so how do you feel about it when you think? So I see that you're aware of that going on. You've got a good insight into what's happening, right? What is your attitude towards that?
I guess that it needs to go away. It needs to be resolved.
Okay, that's it. That's it. That's what I'm figuring. Okay. There's a story there that says that needs to go for me to wake up.
Well, I guess I'm thinking of stages of awakening. Like I don't feel deluded overall by that dynamic, but there is there are lingering. I'm not beyond fear for death, illness, destruction of the body. When people talk about being about that not mattering anymore, that's an unknown to me, and I
Yeah.
guess I assume that this dynamic is part of what it's well, I can see that it keeps the character identification going, and there's going to be fear as long as there's identification as a character with this character story. The identification is not what it used to be. I mean, there was no daylight. There were times when in my younger days, there was no daylight, and that was pure agony.
Oh, oh.
So there's considerable daylight now. There's awareness of it. I can look at it. I can tolerate it. Like lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. It was playing out, but I'm aware of that, and I
Yep.
can be with it.
Yeah. So that can be a bit of a sticky trap too. That awareness, that glimpse of daylight, the bits of daylight that you see as a result of being aware of that can trap you too. Yeah.
Like a lure hasn't.
Yep.
I
Yep.
need more. I need more. I need to continue.
Yeah. What if
I want.
I told you, what if I gave you the story that all that stuff will probably continue when you wake up, except that it won't have hooks in you anymore. It's there. It's a lot of, I mean, it's habitual, isn't it? It's been there forever and ever and ever.
What do you mean by wake up?
Well, good question. Yeah. I guess the most practical answer I could give you is when seeking drops.
Okay. I don't feel. I feel like doership is a thing of the past. Control. That's not. I'm not
Yeah.
hung up on.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, you've got a lot of these attributes that so,
Earlier in the week, I was in the middle of the night the same way, looking at identification with thought, and it struck me that disidentification means disidentify complete. So I thought I was through that, but I could see that there was some, like, a foot in both camps. But then it struck me that what complete disidentification actually means.
yeah.
And I think that's what you no longer having hooks, the thought stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we ever get completely free of hooks, triggers, reaction. And it's a moot point anyway, really. What the issue is, are we aware of it? And what do we do when we become aware of it? What happens? What is the response to it? Now you said if you had no choice, you would live with it. Have you got a choice in anything in your life?
No,
No.
no.
So you see,
And
yeah,
the question comes to mind. You said you're not sure. Like this is it. I see this as a defensive, compensatory uh, structure within in the psyche, in the character structure, like seeking to fill that unfilled void. And you're questioning whether that can ever drop completely. Well, I suppose it will have remnants, but I mean, I imagine it can largely just be seen through and fall.
yeah, who knows? Yeah. Um,
Does everyone speak to a straw man in the head like that? Have a running conversation?
I think it's pretty common.
I imagine. I think like that internal object world, it's going to be populated with the features of one's life, the character, the people, and but does there, like, this is a need to keep that relation going internally, and
Yeah,
sometimes it gets wearying and I'm disgusted with it and just need a break from it, and I sense what is not that, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
You're
if
really
I
close, eh? It's that you feel so close, eh?
if you ask me what is not that, my mind goes to that part that, like, the Buddha or Jesus has nothing to say to, nothing to teach. There's no touching it with words, no communicating anything that needs to be communicated, but it's fleeting.
Yep, yeah, for sure. Have 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 you seen Paul Simpson's video on what awakening is?
Yeah, where he said that it's LU is basically cognitive behavioral
Yeah, yeah,
therapy.
that's the one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was left with feeling like, um, yeah, this is only about the character structure, and but yeah, I was left with a feeling that there's so much more,
mm,
that's only the, like, first fetter stuff. I guess it's not, but
yeah. That's what came to mind was to say that everything else is built on that, but it's not. That's not true. I mean, no matter what I say, I keep thinking that it's not true. But yeah, it's a beginning, and I suspect that you're already well past that beginning part. Do you recognize that self is just a whole bunch of stories? Yeah.
yeah,
So what makes you think you're not awake? This straw man stuff.
I don't say that I'm not, but not. I mean, using the fetter model, I would not. I'm not. The sixth fetter, like the sense of being a local experiencer, subjectivity, that's still here.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Just just like I mentioned to Tim, that a lot of the effort to get somewhere becomes a bit of a block to it, you know. Your story appears to be that you need to get rid of this straw man. I like that. I like that term. You need to get rid of him to move on. Yeah. And I say it's not about getting rid of him. It's about your relationship with him. Yeah. He will go when he wants to go, or rather when circumstances or conditions are right for him to go.
Yeah.
And he may never go fully. He may never go fully because a lot of it is just habit, you know. And so when it happens, the appropriate response is to laugh at it. We need to move into the realm of play rather than work. In play, there is discovery, there is humor, there is energy, there is, you know what play is, if you can remember being a kid or how you imagine kids play, especially young kids who are not yet ground down by society's conditioning. Their play is spontaneous and free and open, and a lot of laughter and and it's all about discovery. It's all about learning about what's going on. Yeah. That's that sense of play is a big thing. The moment we become serious adults and start working, we're fucked. That's my opinion anyway. Yeah. Paul Simpson, tell David something. Well, you're muted.
Okay, where to start? Well, David, when you say the part about the cognitive therapy is first better stuff, you're right. You're actually in a Zoom meeting, and actually Liberation Unleashed is really confined to first better stuff, which is, and when I talk about cognitive therapy, it's basically when people come into Liberation Unleashed, they have a strong attachment, a strong physiological contraction to the thoughts. And by releasing that coupling between thoughts and reactions in the body, it's much easier to see the illusion of self, because the body feelings and sensations can fool you into thinking that prolonging the illusion in self. So you're correct. It's entry level stuff in a sense. When you're talking about six fetter stuff, that's really beyond the scope of what they do over there. And in a way, it's kind of beyond the scope of what we do over here, although I'm familiar with it and I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, and I'm not going to get too deep in the woods on this, when you talk about the subjective feeling of being in here and everything else being out there, that's actually another belief that if you go to a fetters group, you can eventually overcome it. It's a very simple conditioning belief that you were taught when you were a child, but I'm not going to get into it in here because it's, again, this is entry level stuff. But when you talk about the straw man in your head, that's an interesting one to me, because I have maintained, if you watch that video, that the voice in the head, or the narrator of experience, is not what you are. That is identification with thoughts. When you're talking and you're saying, I am David and I am this and I am that, those are thoughts. They might be true facts about you, but your identification with that voice as the character David, that's where the falsehood is. There is, and this is basic level awareness teachings, and it's not non-duality yet. It's basic entry level duality 101 because most people don't really understand duality well enough, in my opinion, to be messing around with non-duality. There is the knowing of the thoughts. The thoughts are objects. The knowing is the true subject. And if you actually look back at what the Buddha was saying, the Buddha used to say, the Buddha and I think the Advaitins never looked at non-duality. They kind of looked at the ultimate form of duality. So this voice that you're identifying with and this voice that you're talking to has a reality that doesn't deserve it. There is the knowing, that is the true you, and then there are the thoughts about David. They're not David's thoughts, they are thoughts about David. And it comes from the mistaken belief that this voice is who you are. It's kind of a split, but that's the basis of the belief, and that's the basis of the illusion. So if you want a simple exercise, just take a thought, like put a blackboard, an imaginary blackboard up in front of you, and write on that blackboard, I am David. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
You see the thought, I am David. All right, now let me ask you something. Can that thought think?
No, I don't feel hung up on the identification. I mean,
Okay.
I can look at it objectively and I see what's happening. It's just the fact that it's just such an entrenched mental habit.
Yes.
I mean,
You said a while ago,
not
you needed validation. What does that mean? Because you're almost drifting off into kind of a psychological thing rather than a duality thing there.
that there is this seeking for approval, still a need to say something about the character David, that he is valuable, acceptable, admirable.
Does the character David think?
No.
Well, where does validation come from? If the David character doesn't think, then the David character isn't thinking that it needs validation. Aren't you just pointing to a feeling in the body somewhere?
Yeah, and ultimately empty thoughts.
Yep.
Habit patterns of thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So does a feeling in a body need validation, or are they
No.
just a thought saying that? Is that thought to be believed?
No.
Can that thought think?
No.
Can that thought think that it needs validation?
No, but I'm looking at the feeling that gives rise to seeking for validation.
The feeling gives rise to something, does it really? Or is it just a feeling? And a thought says all that other stuff. What's the connection?
I suppose there is none.
Right.
They're independent.
So the feeling doesn't prove the thought to be true or false, does it?
No.
So where does that leave you? Still seeking validation?
Looking at entrenched habit.
Well, that's a nice story.
Yeah.
But what makes it true? Another feeling? Are you using good or bad feelings to prove thoughts? An entrenched habit, does that make you feel good to think there's an entrenched habit there? Does the feeling prove the thought true?
No, it's just a story. It's a story.
Right. Lots of stories, aren't there?
Entrenched habit is a story. It's part of the story of David.
There are lots of stories of David, aren't there?
Yeah,
But there's only one knowing of all those many stories, isn't there?
yeah,
So are you the knowing or are you all the stories?
the knowing.
So why do these stories still have power?
Because they've been unquestioned.
Well, I just did.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
That's not to say that the stories won't keep coming up.
Right.
There's triggers happen and they come up. Yeah, they will probably lessen, but yeah, they'll keep coming up. But they don't need to be believed. There's a great here's a good technique that I would recommend. It's a feeling is a sensation plus stories. Right. So when you feel something, if you look at it, investigate it, and look for the sensation component of that feeling, and get close enough to the sensation, the stories get separated from it just by going into the sensation. And when you get really, really close, when you can see the pure sensation, ask yourself, does that sensation itself contain any information? Does it have any instructions built into it? Or is it just sensation? And as you're doing that, guess what? It'll dissolve. The sensation will change just by that pure investigation. The sensation, the feeling requires darkness to exist. The moment you bring the light of investigation to it, it falls apart. Yeah. But you've got to watch that story that says, I've got to get rid of this stuff to get on, to move on. Right? It'll go when it needs to go. It'll go when it, whatever. But yeah, it's the relationship to it that is the issue, not the thing itself. Yeah, right. Ah, that was a bit intense, wasn't it? Yeah, very good. Yeah.
That's the root of the whole problem, isn't it?
What's that, Tim? Spell it
The
out.
sensations, what Paul just investigated with David. It's a direct pointing to where the not resides.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you see that knot in you? Do you see that knot when it arises for you?
I understand that the knowing is as much product of my being as anything else, but
Absolutely.
it's not the asserted being of myself.
Yeah.
It's as if in front of me is the character and the personality doing its thing, thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions, experiences. And then back here is this all pervasive, never changing knowing. This is what has to happen. But this is so strongly asserted that you can only see a little bit until that happens.
Yeah.
This cannot make that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. It's not in the comments. That's right.
And to use a phrase you're familiar with, bugger that.
That's a mild one. Yeah. And I'd just like to interject here that awareness, that all-knowing awareness that you are, that's also as fake as everything else. That's just a staging point, a good place to rest while you look at the lower five fetters. But then the moment you get into the sixth fetter or that area, then that's going to drop too. So yeah, it's just another story. Yeah. Okay. Don is locked heavily into his body. His trauma body is got his feet nailed to the floor.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was noticing. I've written notes that you wrote to me. You said to me yesterday. I always feel I should apologize for coming so often. I just feel I need a bit of support the last few weeks. So I'm kind of struggling a little bit, but
You don't need to apologize for that.
But yeah, I have nothing to do. I'm at COVID. Can't even go and visit anyone for Christmas. It's pretty ridiculous. I'm here on my own. But and I'm just trying to do that, noticing my sensations. It sounds like the simplest possible thing that anyone could do, and I find it unbelievably confusing. That I just get confused by, and it just, yeah. Even noticing my sensations is confusing for me, or the distracting thinking, or the feelings, the emotions. I don't know what I'm doing. Just noticing what's happening. It just seems that's just the same old thing that happened every day for the past whatever number of years. I don't know what I'm understanding from it or whatever.
Yep.
I feel I should be trying to get some understanding from it, or rather than just sitting watching, and yet I'm supposed to be just sitting watching. I don't know what I'm saying. I was following what Paul was doing with David. I was like, thanks be to God, he's doing it with David, not with me. And I'm noticing all those thoughts that I have that I believe because they feel true, and I'm going, I know they're not true, they just feel true. And there's lots of those as well that feel true. And I go, I know they're not, but they feel true, and there's so many of them.
Yep. And so what's your attitude towards them? Do you think that they need to go away?
I think I get annoyed. What do I do? I suppose I don't know what it is. I get annoyed with myself for believing stuff that feels true, and I try and question it, and feel I have to try harder to pay more attention, to not let myself be bamboozled by stuff that I know isn't true, and grit my teeth even more to pay more attention or something. I'm not really sure exactly what to do sometimes.
Okay. I'm going to sick Jenny onto you. I reckon she could give you something there. What do you reckon, Jenny? What do you reckon about Don's? He talks fast and he thinks fast, and he's a bit out of control with all of that. How do you reckon he could get around that stuff?
Well, talk a little bit more, Don, so I could pick up something.
Let me see what I've been doing recently. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have some clarity about what this is about, and it depends on my calm or confidence level. Confidence is very low recently. I'm a bit down in the dumps the past couple of weeks, but sometimes I feel quite kind of clear enough. I mean, not as far as just identification. I don't know. I haven't really got to the awakening place yet, but I don't know. I feel some clarity at retreats and listening to meditations and so on sometimes, and there seems to be a lot of peace and clarity sometimes. And I go, there's only a little bit of doubt over here in the corner. It isn't even a big deal. I'll just ignore it for now. It'll probably dissolve, or I'll see through it one of the days. And then other times it's just nothing but doubt, and I think I'm just so confused. There's nothing going on except for confusion, and just lots of thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, so what happens, Don, is you go up in your head about it.
Oh yeah.
And when you feel the doubt, sit with, like, find the sensation. Where does that doubt feel in your body? I mean, I say stomach because that's a lot of times where it hits me, but when you start to doubt and you can feel that, it feels like a contraction maybe, and you can feel it in your body, that doubt. And instead of going back up to your mind and spinning stories about doubt, and I'm confident or I'm not confident, or I'm clear or I'm not clear, and all this stuff about, go back down into that. What does doubt feel like?
Yeah, I can do that. And then, yeah, I do. You can do it now, say.
Yeah, do it now. Where is the doubt?
I don't know. Initially, it feels contracted. It's more in my head, and I'm going, "Oh, it should be in my body, shouldn't it?" So I'll see if
There
I
you
can
go.
find
Some more. No, not necessarily. Follow it, because it's gonna, you see how you keep jumping into your head, and then you go into confusion because you won't write it out. You keep bouncing out of it.
Okay,
So it'll take you where it takes you. And your experience is what's the actual, what's happening. So where's the doubt? It feels contracted in your, what? You said your throat, your chest, and just be with that for a moment.
For the moment, if I go immediately, it's in my head. It feels like confusion. It feels like spinning, like just
What does
almost
spinning?
wanting to get me.
Okay.
confused. I
So
don't know.
you're calling the spinning confusion. You're calling it confusion. Do you see that it's a label? It's you're making up a story about that sensation, that spinning sensation. So describe the sensations more without a story, without, well, you can tell me the story because we need to, right now you need to label it to get into it.
It feels well, spinning in my head. It feels like I'm forgetting what you're asking me, forgetting I'm even here, forgetting what I'm supposed to do, just going off.
Okay, so just be with that for a minute. Just breathe into it and be with that spinning.
Yeah.
Just sit with it. Don't try to get out of it. Don't try to make anything else up about it. Now what's happening?
Yeah. Sorry, it's kind of a dizziness. I'm shaking now. My hands are shaking, and it feels like my head is emptying. I'm just trying to remember that you're still there and that you even asked me anything.
Yeah, just keep feeling the dizziness, the spinning. Just keep being with it.
Yeah, it's kind of it's spinning, kind of almost like I'm disappearing, forgetting who I am or that I'm even here, and this fear.
Yep. Just keep being with it.
Very strange, kind of dizzy. I don't know, shaky, dizzy. I feel like I'm sort of disappearing, that I could disappear any second.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fear and probably shame. Fear.
So fear. Okay, tell me, what does fear and shame feel like?
More like I expect something to go wrong.
Okay, so you expect it to go wrong. That would be fear. So where's the fear feel in your body or in your head or around your body? It can be anywhere. What does fear feel like?
In my stomach, I feel like sorry, more of an expectation. The whole body just expects something to come at me.
What does that feel like? Is it tight? Is it contracted? Is it pain?
Kind of a contraction. Yeah, I feel like I'm expect some threat.
Yeah. And you feel like a guarding, like a tenseness? What's it feel like? Describe it to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Guarding some tenseness in my arms, and yeah, I don't feel capable of stopping anything from the center. Don't feel like going like that. for some reason I just guarding a little bit more. I feel tension in my hand and my arms, and yet it doesn't seem to be any feeling of being able to stop anything or trying to stop anything. Just
Yeah.
that
Tension for no
something-
reason. Tension for the unknown.
tension for the or else just that I can't stop.
Mhm.
Well, my story is that if I were very, very young and I couldn't actually do anything, I would just have to lie there.
Yeah. And how does that feel to just have to lie there? What's that feel like?
Kind of scary because it's like feels like annihilation or something.
Annihilation. Yeah. So what does scary feel like?
Scary feels scary.
Yeah. So describe the sensations of scary.
Like shaky. I'm shaky all the way down to my torso, and my arms are shaking. My legs, my torso, I feel sort of nauseous. Yeah, generally shaking.
Yeah,
kind of.
nauseous. Yeah. So breathe into that nauseousness. Breathe into that nauseousness and just be with it. This is what you've been calling scary. Breathe into
Okay.
that nauseousness. Because you're going down in now. The label scary is bringing you there.
Okay.
It's what you've called scary. Be with the nauseousness and breathe into it.
There's I don't know if it's a feeling like of sort of shame or expectation of criticism.
There
If
you
you're all
go.
there, something like
Yeah.
expecting you to tell me off or to be impatient or something.
Yeah. That's very common. How does that shame of, oh, not doing it right, we're waiting, you're a burden, what does that look like? What does that feel like?
Feel like.
What are the sensations? The sensations.
God, I find it very hard to describe sensations. I don't. I'm no good at describing sensation.
Nauseous? Are you still
A
nauseous?
little bit, or it's just empty. I don't know why I'm expecting, something to arrive, some threat. That's not a sensation. That's the thought. Is it? How do I?
Hey, don't think how, because you're back up in your head thinking how,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
right? And then you can't, because the mind can't do it.
Okay.
When the mind starts to think how, it's trying to do it. So feel the fear, feel the shame, and feel how that feeling feels in your body.
There's shakiness all the way down to my feet. Emptiness.
Yeah. And then just be with that. So you see, the mechanic I want you to be able to get to, so you can do this on your own as well,
Yeah.
is when you try to do it, I don't know how to do it. It's the mind trying to do it.
Yeah.
Then you say, well, okay, go back. I feel shame. Everybody's waiting on me.
Yeah.
How does that feel to feel shame? What does shame feel like? The mind doesn't know.
Yeah. No.
So how does shame feel?
So there's some nausea here.
Yeah, so just sit with the nausea. Just sit with it.
Yeah.
There's
I don't
nothing.
know.
So your awareness is sitting with the nausea. That's what's happening. And then that's just what you do. You just sit with it.
And yeah, nausea and nausea, I guess, dizzy, feeling my whole torso, and
So when this happens, what you do is you sit with these sensations. Because when you go back up in your mind and the labeling can get you to the sensation, so it's helpful for that point. But you
Okay.
see this nausea is labeled fear or shame. And then the mind wants to make a story about it and says it can't get into it. Do you see how?
okay, so just want to go, oh yeah, the sensations, yeah, okay, it's, yeah,
Mhm.
I think I do, yeah. I
Right.
do
So
want to, I still want to make a story of it though, oh my God.
yes,
I want to
yes,
understand it. What's the point if I
yes.
don't understand it?
Yes. You just be with it. You just be with it. And that's what's going to integrate it. You be with that and you're going to watch the energy shifting. It's going to move around. You're not going to know where it's going to go. It's going to shift and it's going to change. And your mind's going to want to keep making stories. And then your mind's going to want to get confused because I don't know how to feel. Well, you just did. But your mind, yeah, you see? So this is a tool. I mean, we can keep going if you want and feeling it, but I want you to understand the mechanism of the tool.
Seems pretty cool. Oh yeah, thank you. I don't know, maybe we want to do it for much longer. I need to do it again with somebody again, I'd say, because I'll forget this really quickly, I'd say somehow. I mean, even it sounds so simple, I'm pretty sure I'll,
Okay, let's do it right now. So
overcomplicate my
you
way out
forget.
of it or something.
Yeah, so you forget, right? What's the mind, right? You recognize you're forgetting. You recognize you're confused. Those are your flags in. Oh, I'm
Okay.
confused. What does confusion feel like?
Yeah, I'm trying to just
See, whenever you spin a story, oh, what does that feel like? That's your access.
It seems like nothing almost. It seems like very little. I'm just seems very strange.
Bunch of stories. It's a bunch of stories. You see, and the mind wants to keep you out of your feelings. It wants to keep you out of these sensations. So whenever you start to think, I'm confused, I don't know, and you can feel it. What does being in your head feel like? Versus this.
This is I mean, another story I would have is this feels so bland and okay. Is this the reason I've been depressed for 30 fucking years? To avoid feeling like this? There's nothing wrong with this. This is fine.
I know. I know. I know. So when you're in your head, do you know what it feels like to be in your head? In your body. In your body, what does being in your head feel like when you're thinking and making stories?
That's, yes. It feels like contracted and tiring and exhausting and stressful and
So when you feel that, that's your access. Oh,
okay.
I'm thinking again.
Yeah.
And then you can feel, what does that feel like in your body? And that'll take you back in. Oh, I don't know how to get in my body. What does it feel like to not know how to get in your body?
Okay.
All that's going to bring you back into the sensations.
Okay. That's seems easy.
Your brain's going to go, oh, I'm not going to remember. What does that feel like?
Or I'm just kind of interested. This seems fairly easy, and this is what I've been struggling to try and do for such a long time, it seems. Yeah, that's been really helpful. Thank you. I'm going to have to ask someone to help me do this again, though, because it's as simple as this seems. It's ridiculous how much I overcomplicate, and as you know. But thank you. That was really, really good. Thank you.
And appreciate, Don, that every thought you have is an escape. Every single thought that comes to mind, every story that happens is a way of you escaping the threat of annihilation, whatever that is.
And when you get there in annihilation, you're actually really enjoying it.
Yeah, there's some yeah, I maybe because I name it as fear and shame and stuff, maybe it's not terrible in reality. I don't know. But
Yeah, but that's a story again. So you're so you're so quick to get back into your head and make up a story about it. And that's not wrong. Don't get the idea that it's wrong. What we want you to do is be aware of that when it happens. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looked
Yeah.
like he wanted to jump out of that chair and run out of the room. Was that a fair characterization?
What that I wanted to? Oh yeah, pretty well. Yeah, but it's. I mean, I really. Oh, there was a lot of shame. It's a lot, well, that's a name I label, is it? But I just, yeah, it just feels like a lot of that.
As soon as you do know something, investigate what that name represents. What are the sensations involved and what are the stories involved? So naming is a way of avoiding too. You label things, it's a way of not getting close to it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But relax. You know? And what I found while that was happening for you, while Jenny was doing that with you, your hands, you're incredibly expressive with your hands. What your hands and your fingers are doing is another story, but it's brilliant. You know, there's so much expression there. Be aware of that as well. Yeah.
I was
Yeah, and
really,
the labels.
I was talking to one of my focusing person or my somatic experiencing person recently. She was kind of going, "What are you?" And particularly my right hand, it's like every part. I've just came across this and understanding it. I don't know, in somatic experiencing a month or two ago, that like from here down, all of me is just pretend. But this, my right hand was left free for some reason. So this is communicating. It's very strange. So my hands seem to be communicating something. I have no idea what they're saying, but they seem to be, I don't know, out from under the pretend part of me. It's very strange. But yeah, I know, I noticed that before. It's strange.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing to you too, is the label is two parts. The label will either take you up to your head, or the label will take you down into the meaning you've given it, the sensation that you've labeled. So you can go, when you get the label, I'm embarrassed, or I'm ashamed, or I'm confused, that label can send you back up into your head to tell a story about it, or you can use that label to say, what does that shame feel like? And then go back into the sensations. It can be an access.
Okay. And all I do is just feel that until whenever.
Yeah, it'll keep shifting. Well, it'll keep shifting. It feels like the rest of your life. It feels like the rest of your life, some of them, like it'll never stop, but you just pay attention to it and you relax into it and it'll start shifting.
Okay.
So your job now is to do nothing.
Okay.
Yes. You know, have that play, if you can imagine it, have that playful attitude of discovery and good humor about what you see. But other than that, don't do anything. Don't look for anything. Don't try anything. Just let what happened integrate.
Okay.
And it will.
All right. Thank you. That was really helpful. Thanks, both of you. Thanks.
Hi, Andre. I have seen you before, haven't I? But I haven't heard from you. Tell us where you're up to on this this journey, whatever, this stuff. Oh, you just froze up.
A certain I don't know, there's a certain way I have to comb my hair, or there's a certain way I have to position my face against the camera in order for you to see me as someone who is taking this seriously, and someone who is like, you know, really dedicated to whatever the theme of the group is. And this is almost suffocating. It means like I have to, instead of just being the way I am, I have to pay so much attention to details, and I have to pay so much attention to you as to how you respond to these details, and then have to readjust myself accordingly. And it feels natural, feels like a habit. But
what would happen if you
also,
didn't do it?
then you would probably not see me as someone who's serious about this whole awakening thing.
And what would that mean?
That would mean that you would, expel me from the group, from the tribe, from the, go away. You're not serious. You're not ready. You know,
Does
go and
this pervade your whole life? Is this you in every situation?
I guess pretty much, yeah. Because like
I get the feeling that you know that this is a load of rubbish, don't you? But at the same time, do you feel like you can't control it?
no, I can't. And I went to just a few moments earlier. I went to a supermarket to buy groceries and stuff, and I felt so much anxiety. I think maybe this whole holiday thing and Christmassy and we've had a little bit of a conflict with my wife because I don't see Christmas or I don't see these rituals as something important, and probably it has two sides.
Shitty internet.
What they call it in therapy, counter dependent. Like no, not counter dependent. What's the word? I don't know. I'm too stupid to know these words in a good way, of course. Yeah. And what's coming up now is this feeling of it feels like I'm digging my own sort of grave, and deeper and deeper and deeper, and then I'm just sort of showing to you the parts which I'm not proud of, and kind of anticipating you to follow my invitation and to say, you know what, and then confirm or validate that I'm not, good enough, worthy, blah 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 blah. Whatever I don't really see it, but I just kind of feel it as a.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just waiting for you to sort of snap there, and then just go, okay, let's go to someone else. Like, come on, let's and I'm like, "Hmm." So it's like a part of me there's like a part of me which wants to be spontaneous and wants to, like, fool around and just be with you, but then there's another part which is sort of waiting for you to snap at that part and just go, that's it, like, what are you doing? Like, this is, you're wasting everybody's time. And I understand maybe this is too much talking, but yeah, I'm generally, I wish I was clear about it, but I wish I were clear about it, but I'm not. I
Mm.
wish I knew what's happening to me. I wish I could just, present myself and differentiate all the different things that are happening to me, and just show you how good I am at doing this. But I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
What you've described so far tells me that you've got a fairly good insight into what goes on in you.
Can I add something there, Vince?
Of course, don't ask, just do it.
So Andre, there's a feeling inside you that's running you. And this feeling is having you go all over the map. So to avoid the feeling, you overcompensate, do you see? Or you undercompensate. So you want to laugh and then you want to play, but you see it's running around like a fly in a glass jar to get away from this feeling, and it's running you. So the feeling that you're not good enough, which I've heard you say a few times, the feeling that you're going to be rejected, that you just want to play and be yourself. So if we're not going to reject you, well, then you'll talk until we do reject you. That feeling. Can you feel it in your body?
my hands start to tremble, and like this, my whole kind of, there's this sort of trepidation in my body, and
Yes.
I'm holding the phone with my hand and it's shaking.
Yeah, so be with that feeling. That's what you've been running around. It's been running you. It's you jump up into your head to get away from it. You in every direction. Yeah, go
It's like
down into that.
Parkinson.
Yeah, go down
I
into
mean-
the feeling. That's right. Just breathe into it. Just breathe into it. It's not a disease. It's just a very strong feeling that you've been running from. Running up into your head. Just feel it. Breathe it. Breathe into it. Notice if things are shaking. Let them shake. That's energy releasing.
Just want to crawl up, crawl inside of a cave or something and close
Oh,
the,
yeah. Yeah. Get it. Just keep feeling that. Drop
And
back in.
Andre, you've got permission to cry. No worries at
Yes.
all there.
Yeah, we cry all the time out there. Yeah, let it come up if it wants to cry. Keep breathing into it.
Just want to protect myself from you by telling you stories and explaining and rationalizing, and
It seems you're trying to protect yourself from us, but what's happening is you're protecting yourself from this. This is what you're running from. It just seems like us.
So what happens if you don't protect yourself? Describe the feelings rather than tell the story. If you don't protect,
there's still
Yeah, that
I-
the thought's going to bring up more. The thought, what if you don't protect yourself, is going to bring up more. The thoughts are telling a story about this feeling, but this is the feeling you've been avoiding.
if I don't protect myself from you, then it means that I have to admit to you and to myself that that you are important, and that you are, I don't like that I care, that you're valuable, that there's that somehow I want to be with you. I don't know.
So
I'm embarrassed.
If that embarrassment is a feeling too. Embarrassment is just a feeling in the body that the mind makes up that it's wrong. But of course, it's a feeling. We all feel these feelings. So you're feeling embarrassed and you feel like, what if you needed us?
That sucks. I mean, this.
Yeah, so feel what that
Then-
feels like. Feel what that feels like of needing something.
I feel like an old, like an old dude shaking, and like I have a Parkinson or something. That's how it looks like. I don't know. I haven't had Parkinson yet.
Yeah, well, those feelings, that's energy moving in your body. That's all that is. That's all that is. It's energy moving in your body, then you're letting it move because you're not running from it.
Yeah. My head starts to ache, and there's it. Is it like it's a hint of anger, or like I don't want to need you. I
Yeah.
hate to need you.
Oh,
Like
oh, good. Feel that hatred. I despise, I hate that I need you. What does it say about you that you need us? What does it say about you?
it says that I'm torn apart by needing you on one hand and hating you on the other hand, and I just don't want to be dependent on that. I just want to be independent. I just want to be free from you. I
Okay,
just
so it's the feelings inside of you that are making you dependent and needy and then push away because they're running you. So you go in and feel that neediness, and that's what's going to free you. Feel the neediness. How does it feel in your body? That's what's going to free you, is by feeling your neediness fully.
I almost feel like there's a fence around the neediness. When the neediness expands, then there's the fence, and the fence says, like they're going to reject you. They don't have it, what you need. They're not going to give it to you.
Well, that's a guard too, because in reality, you don't need us, and you do. But there's something stored in your body that believes you need us, and that's what you're going to feel. Because when you feel it fully, you'll realize you'll feel whole. But you can't realize it with your mind. You've got to go in and feel the neediness. It wants to be felt. It wants to be seen. And if the guard, the fence says, I don't need them, then that's still a guard. So feel that pressure of that fence. And feel that too. That's part of what's happening.
But then I'll become. If I show you my neediness, it means I show you my vulnerability. And if I show my vulnerability, then it means that I don't know. It feels like a betrayal, or some kind of abuse, or
Yeah. That probably has happened. So you're feeling it for you. You're going in there and being with that energy, so you can let it integrate.
and then there's the decision that sorry, I don't want to follow my narrative. I want to
No, go
follow
ahead.
yours.
The narrative is taking you through this. It's okay. You're describing, like I said, labels can be helpful or they can be blocking. This label is not blocking you, it's bringing you in. So what happens? What happens if you show your vulnerability? And then we are betrayed. What happens when you're betrayed?
It's very painful. There's a lot of pain in there.
Yeah.
There's pain, and there's like a decision to not to
Yeah.
to not be vulnerable, to not be myself, just to put up a mask. Or
Can you see why, do you see why you're not free? The mind is controlling your nature. Go in there and be with that pain, that fear of being betrayed.
it seems too much. It seems, oh God.
Yeah, just breathe with it. Just breathe. There's no hurry. It's all right. Just be with it. And let it cry if it wants to cry. Let it cry.
Oh. Mm. It's like, I don't know, I've been, run over by a steamroller or something, or hit by a bus. There's
Yeah.
there's like disgust, and there's anger, and despair, and
Yeah.
and
You can
just,
feel those as sensations. You can feel those as sensations, right? Yeah, those are all sensations. That's the whole mix of the betrayal.
I just want to, I don't know, I just want to kill people, but not like kill them, just make them disappear. I don't want, like,
Oh, no, no. Go back into the feeling of the disgust and the betrayal. Because it's the people aren't doing this. Your mind is doing this. Your mind is trying to protect you from this.
no, you say this and I'm like, oh, she's,
What's your mind saying?
like, you're cunning, and that you're like, I don't know, you're plotting, or
That I'm what?
that mm, you're what's the word? English fails me. You're like, I shouldn't trust you,
Say again?
but like, I shouldn't trust you.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
there's,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I got an agenda or something.
mm, yeah, like you haven't. Well, yes and no.
Yeah. So how does that feel? Can you feel the guarding in your body again?
It's like, uh, the guarding is in the head, and the head starts to ache really, really, like, mm, mm, I noticed this. There's like a major contraction in the head. Well, if there's such a thing as contraction in the head, and then the body itself is like, it's okay, and it's just the head, really. It's just
Yeah.
the
So do you
tension
see
is.
how yeah, so your mind is blocking you from going into your sensation again, because in there you're feeling the betrayal and the shame and the pain. And you see, so the mind will keep you from going back into your body.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying do this with the man, anybody in the grocery store. You know, you have to do this in a space where you can show vulnerability. This way you can access it. And you know that this is safe. And if you feel in your gut, you know it's safe, and you know your mind is trying to guard it. It doesn't mean you go do it in the grocery store.
I can almost see, like, I don't know if it's important, but it's just like it's like a younger kid and an older kid. A younger kid is the one who's like, open, and smiles, and just, kisses dogs and cats, even if they're dead, doesn't care. He just like loves it. And then there's like a teenager, or someone who's, a little older and has seen stuff, and they're like, usually, no, these are adults. They're like, they'll hurt you. They'll do this. They'll do this.
But
And he's like,
this gets stored. Yeah, this gets stored in your body. If we're going to make a story about this, this stuff gets stored in your body and you're afraid to go back to the innocence of your youth. And the teenager is trying to protect you. That's why I'm saying you don't do this in the grocery store. There's a wisdom, right? But when you're in a place where you can go through that guarding back into where you were with that child who was in so much pain and did anything bad happen other than it felt
don't-
horrible.
I
Other
don't
than it
have
felt
exactly.
in this moment,
Memories.
in this moment, not as a child, but in this moment when you went in there.
I just felt immense pain, like immense
Yes.
pain, and then loneliness and
So that
disappointment with the life world or whatever.
yes, so you see, you can access that because what's been happening is your mind has been guarding you from being engaged in life. You can't connect with anything. You can't bond with anything. No kissing dogs, no fucking Christmas. That's for sure. Nothing. It's not safe. Life is not safe. And then your mind has been keeping you separate and lonely and in pain. By the stories it's telling, trying to guard you from feeling what you were just feeling. And when you go in there and you feel in a safe place, what you were just feeling, it'll move. It can't move if you won't go there.
Well, I felt it today, so it
you
better
sure did.
fucking move.
You sure did.
No,
You
this
sure
is too intense. I mean, like, oh God. And
I want you
especially like
I want you to understand the
especially
mechanics of it. Okay. I want you to see the mental mechanics of it. Right.
Mhm.
So where we went is where you've been avoiding with your mind. And I want you to see that mechanic, the guarding of the mind and why it's logical to guard. Right. But in a safe space for you to go in there is what's going to move that energy. It's not the people around you, because no matter who's around you, a saint could be around you and you're going to protect yourself. You didn't hear for some reason, but you started to, right? Your mind was wanting to. Oh, she's got an agenda. She's got something going on, right? Your mind's trying to do it, but you've already gone in. And so the energy's starting to move now. But I want you to see the mechanics of how the mind is protecting you and blaming everything around you so that you can't connect. But what you're trying to stay safe from is not the world. What you're trying to stay safe from is what you just went in and felt. Avoiding feeling that.
And your job now is to do nothing. Same as Don. Do nothing. The bear's been poked. Now we need to let some integration happen, and then we'll poke again later. Okay, it's a Pandora's box that you've opened up. It's huge. There's so much stuff in there. Just let it all settle. Don't try and do anything. Just watch. Be curious. If a great technique would be for you to get in touch with that innocent young child and look at what's going on for you from that perspective, and you'll just be agog. You'll just be mouth open, going, "Oh, wow, look at that! Wow!" Just be curious and in discovery mode, and let it integrate for a while. We don't have to push it all the way. We don't have to have a breakdown right now. You've shown the world, that's us at the moment, and you're still here. You survived it. Your vulnerability did not expose you to mortal danger this time. Maybe it will next time, but it hasn't this time.
Well, the thing is, I'm not saying some things that come up to my mind because I believe that they're actually what Jenny's saying, they're like guarding, and I'm just trying, okay, and I'm trying to stay with the actual feeling, because like, I don't know, before that, like if that happened maybe a year ago, I would be, I would be telling you stories and stuff. Now I'm just trying to, but it's very uncomfortable. It's like super extremely uncomfortable, and
Yeah. Of course it, yeah.
Mm. Okay. All right.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff. It seems like a lot of what we're doing here is psychological stuff. And I mean, that's just another label anyway. But in fact, what it is how we keep ourselves away from this thing we call being awake, whatever you want. So I said earlier that when David asked me what being awake was, I said, well, maybe it's can be categorized by no longer seeking. But if we try and describe it a bit more, it's a perspective. It's a different perspective, a different way of looking at things from the old habitual way. And the old habitual way is cool. Yeah, we know what that is. That's where Santa Claus is real. But now we know. Yeah. Right. Are you there, Richard? You're not showing your face, but are you there? What about you, Paul? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Richard. This is
Oh,
Richard.
great, Richard.
Yeah,
how's-
I'm new here, so I'm observing this time, but I have to agree with a lot of what's been going on.
okay.
I can relate to a lot of what David said and what Andre said, and Don, and the advice that he's getting is what I've been learning from a lot of teachers is resist nothing, go into your feelings. As painful as they are, go into them, welcome them.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do sometimes.
Oh, of course.
But I think you're saying the right things.
Right. So how's your experience of this, Tim, from your perspective? What we're on about here are bits and pieces. How's it? How are you seeing it? Are we up ourselves?
No, it's really fascinating to see that you're dove right into what Jenny was saying, the mechanisms that's going on. And that's what I've had an inkling from listening to Angelo and listening to Pernella this last year or two, that if there's a leverage that you can make on yourself, there seems to be something there. Part of it's going into the head too much, or maybe looking into the body, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to agree myself to truth. But yeah, it does seem valuable and interesting. I was content for a while to just say, oh, well, I'm this knowing awareness. And now it's just a question of waiting for that to dawn, waiting for that to assert itself, or waiting for lightning to strike or whatever. Well, I'll keep working. And you keep working, another 20 years goes by.
Sure. So that knowing awareness, I mentioned earlier, that can be a good resting place while we work on things, but it can also be a hiding place.
Yeah, that's a new idea. I don't want to say idea, but that's a new thought. I thought that you're just waiting for the bus at that point, once you recognize that you're consciousness awareness, and then the rest is up to grace. And my first 20 years was on a bhakti path. So, grace was kind of something I was familiar with. And it becomes not so much dependent upon my effort as on God's effort. and if I am unsuccessful in my efforts, it's because, I'm not good enough. I don't have the right karma. I don't have the right grace. You know, I didn't stay a vegetarian. I didn't continue doing my meditation. I left the group. They left me. You know, that's
Yeah, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And so with the Vedanta stuff, it's more like math. You know, it's like this is this is this is this, or the Gurdjieff stuff. You work on all four levels and the psychological level, and this seems largely psychological, but with a direct this sense of going straight to the feelings. I think my thoughts and my feelings are intimately connected, and when I'm afraid, I'm afraid of something tangible that's going to happen tomorrow. Don't tell me it's not going to, because I know it is. Yeah, you're jumping at that tiger behind the bush all the time. You know, you're afraid of the other, you know, and that my strategy was to be the clown. And gosh, Angela hit that on the head a little while ago. And I was told I was a clown at one of those things that your company puts on for you when they get some actors and psychology people around and get to learn about your strategy. And one of the doctors looked at me and said, "You play the fool at work." Well, I am I didn't disagree with him. And I was like, and he kind of was worried about how I might react. And it's like, absolutely. Absolutely. And I sat with that for over the pandemic, thinking about it. And then Angelo described it exactly. You create the environment around you to prevent yourself from seeing the fear that's underneath all that. And I think I just saw Andre illustrate how he sets up the environment around him to do the same thing. And we're both playing on a different board, but we're playing the same damn game.
Absolutely.
And you guys have you've lifted the lid on that game and said, look at the mechanic there. I feel like I'm closer.
Great.
You know,
Right.
I feel like I'm closer now. I did do some I Ching a while ago, which I do periodically because I want a progress report, and I kind of like that kind of stuff. And it basically said nothing to do. Your head is there's a carrot on a stick, and your head on the chopping block. So it kind of gave me permission to go, okay, I'll just put everything down the best that I can. And if I feel inspired or inclined to keep daily reminders, I'll do that. Anyway.
Yeah, good one. All right. What arises?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How are you, Jeremy?
Doing well. I think actually what David was saying at the outset, I've caught myself a few times trying to think of, oh, I should come with a question. I should come with something meaningful. And I catch myself and then I stop. Nope, I'm gonna show up, listen, participate as necessary, and if something arises, then I'll ask that. Here's what's arising. I think I'm looking for a bullshit meter. I generally, most of the time, feel a lot of contentment. I don't have a lot of stress. I don't experience what I would describe as suffering. I think I had mentioned on an earlier call that when I was at Angelo's retreat at the end of November, that I left without like a big shift. I didn't have some like sudden thing and that I was seeing things differently. But I also realized as I was about to just thank him for the retreat and that I didn't have a big shift. In that moment, I started crying because I realized that I didn't have this like seeking urge anymore. And so I don't feel like I don't feel like I have something that I have to find. If you were, the question in a like acute sensation or feeling of, could you be with this, period, not just for this moment, but could you be with whatever you're experiencing for the rest of your life? If you were to ask me, could I be with whatever stage of awakening I'm at right now for the rest of my life, could I be there? I want to like, not only do I want to say yes, like it feels true and genuine that I don't feel like I have to advance or gain greater insight. At the same
But in there
time,
though somewhere, isn't there? I can hear a but.
yes, at the same time, I'm curious about it. And that curiosity, or at least what I'm describing as curiosity, is what is keeping me engaged in it.
Mhm. And there's something that says there's more.
Yeah. There's more, but I'm okay if there's not.
Yeah.
Or I'm okay if I don't find it. And so this is the part where I was like, is this just bullshit that I'm telling
Yeah.
myself because I'm afraid that I'm not gonna find it?
Yeah, I gotcha. When you said you're looking for a bullshit meter, what came to my mind was, oh, that's easy. All thoughts are bullshit. Full stop.
I love it. I love that you just said with deep sincerity, yeah, everything you just said was total bullshit. But not because it was not the content of it, but
Yeah.
the the medium.
Yeah. I mean, thoughts are like, we've got a hammer and we're going to use that tool for everything we do. We're going to use the hammer to stir our coffee, and we're going to use the hammer to do all sorts of things. And that's what thoughts are, but they're useful if we have to hammer a nail. So, but that's only one job out of a million. And all the rest, it's inappropriate to use those thoughts. They're just not relevant. Yeah. So
In
there's,
terms of, I
yeah, go on.
was going to say, like, in terms of my perspective that I currently see and experience the world with, I had mentioned that I haven't had any sudden shifts.
Well,
But
that's
when I
irrelevant.
look back, but when I look back at where I was in my life 2-3 years ago, it's like a frog in a pot of boiling water. Like
Yeah.
I am not experiencing the world like I was before. And if I had gone from 2.5 years ago to today, it would probably have felt like a very sudden shift.
Yeah.
I can't like put my finger on anything. It's almost like I experienced some things, and now I'm and some of Pernilla's and Angelo's content, like seeing. It's almost like an understanding of things that I happen to go through and experience and feel that I didn't have the. I don't know. That thought just stopped. I don't know where I was going with what I was saying right there, but
Yeah, my feelings, my thoughts about you, about what you've said, is that your stories are much more sophisticated and subtle than say Andre's or Don's. and because of that, you know, they've got a bigger, they can fool you better, but they're more subtle. But yeah, but we're not talking about what Paul was referring to earlier. We're not talking about this entry stuff. You know, you're kind of you're past that. So you're getting up to much more subtle stuff. Yeah.
I think that's why I've been so appreciative. As I've mentioned before, I still experience being triggered.
Mm.
And I have come to really appreciate when that happens, because it's something that I can, like, oh, there's a sensation that is different than what most of my day is. Because most of my day is often just like calm, warmth,
Yep.
relaxed. And so when something happens, it's obvious. And it's like, oh, there's a story here, there's a belief here that was hiding and waiting for the right moment to come out.
It tells you something when you can say you really appreciate it when shit happens. That's tells you something. That's great. I love it. And me too. I feel the same way. It's really good when shit happens. Yeah.
It's also funny that there's been shit that happens that's not triggering. Last night, my wife and I were in the kitchen. She poured she bought herself a new ice maker, like a pebble ice maker for Christmas, and we spent all afternoon trying to get this dumb thing working. We finally got it working. She put some ice in the glass, poured her, the one thing she wanted was a glass of Diet Coke in a glass with this pebble ice, like you'd get at a fast food restaurant or something. And she went to pick it up, and her like water bottle, and knocked over the glass, and the ice and the Diet Coke spilled all over. And I had almost no reaction to it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was telling myself not to react. I just felt like, oh, that just happened. Okay, I'll help you clean it up.
Great discovery, isn't it? Yeah. That I had a similar thing the other day, and I don't even remember what it was anymore, but I had no reaction to it. And then I realized that I had no reaction to it. And you know what? I had a reaction to that. I had a little ego puffed up and said, oh, that was great. You didn't have a reaction. It was good. Yeah. 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 So these are telltale signs, that's good stuff. Yeah. 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 So maybe we better start a group that focuses on sixth fetish stuff or something up there. But yeah. But anyway, but they're all intertwined. There is no, Angelo seems to see these things in a sequential manner, and I don't. I'm more in line with Panilla, and I think that they can be all mixed up. I still have first fetish stuff coming up. I notice it. I find but yeah.
You
So-
reminded me of a question that arose the other day. I was watching one of her second Feder videos, and at the beginning of the video, it's the one where she dives into the aggressive bully, passive aggressive bully, and the gosh, I'm forgetting about the third one, the chameleon, whatever the other word is for that. But at the beginning of the video, she says, if you haven't seen through the self, don't watch this. Don't watch this yet. There's a risk that I think she said, like, get stuck, or this might do more harm than good. And I paused it, and I was like, I don't know if I've seen through the self. I still don't know. And part of me was like, well, I don't know if I care. I'm gonna press play. I'm gonna do it anyway. I guess I'm curious, how would you or she, like, How does anybody answer that question for themselves?
Oh, am I through? You can't. I don't think you can. Maybe on your deathbed, you can say, you know what? I haven't seen myself selfing for whatever length of time. But up until that point, for my way of thinking, is, you know what? I'll bet you there's still hidden bits of selfing there that'll show themselves when the right triggers happen. That no matter how advanced or how far we think we've progressed in this thing, I keep discovering these things that keep popping up, and I just laugh when people say, oh, I've broken the second fetter, or I've broken the fifth fetter, or whatever. I think, oh yeah, how do you know that? That sounds a bit like selfing to me, to say I've broken it. That sounds like first fetter again. But who knows? I don't know. I mean, it's only conceptual anyway, but yeah.
I've been a slow boil myself. Like I've had awakening experiences just for a moment years ago, where and then contracted right back into a self, but really it's been like a slow boil too. And I don't notice selfing until something happens, like Christmas, and then I start noticing I'm selfing about family and blah 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 stories and the self, and offended and all this crazy stuff. So, but I watch the selfing. So seeing through the self, maybe the selfing still shows up, but I'm able to watch the selfing happening. And because even the story awakening, it's like when, oh, you awake, it's like,
Yeah.
does that even, not even a relevant question anymore. It's like, it's so weird. So yes, yeah, I think it's the watching, being able to, for me, the experience here is the awareness watches all the mechanics of stuff. It's like when my son was only 3 years old, he went on this little kid roller coaster, and all the little other kids were, my son, no, he's watching the gears, watching the mechanics as he's going around, this little 2.5-year-old. And that's how it seems. It seems like I can just watch the mechanics of these things. Not that they don't occur, or there isn't triggering happening or emotions happening, but I can watch the mechanics of it, and then it just like it falls apart. So if that's awake, I guess so,
You just made me like think of the word. I realized that I don't know if I ever understood the word wonder until you just said that. It's like looking at the world with like curiosity and trying not to use the word wonder, but like, wow, look at how that worked. That was interesting. Look at how those things are related. Look at what's beneath that. Isn't that, wow.
Quite a fascinating thing.
I coined the phrase some time ago, wonderful, and FULL, and two separate words. And I say the lifing is wonderful. It's just full of wonder, and it's a literal interpretation of the word. And it is for a 2-year-old, and it is for people who are waking up. It's just fucking amazing. No matter where you get, you just go, wow, look at that. That leaf on that tree. Look, it's got serrations around the edges of it, and it's got shades of green. Well, is it even green? It's just wonderful. It's amazing. That's
another really wonderful, amazing thing is the connectivity, because watching the mechanics of stuff, I can feel people. Like I can feel when they're going, I can feel the movement in my own body, the nauseous or the contraction. I can feel it here. And I can feel when it's moving. It's like they're me, sort of, only not. It's hard to describe. But this connectiveness is starting to happen too, because the guarding here is being seen through.
And for Andre, that's the vulnerability, the trust that what is what is what is. And if we want to put a story on it, then it's okay.
Has anybody else had the experience of like reading, whether it's prose or poetry, where someone is describing experience or the world in a really deep and particularly nature, describing the trees and the plants and the lake or the deer, whatever it might be. I was like, I remember earlier in my life, I was like, I don't, where are people coming up with these words? Like, I don't see those when I'm walking around outside. And I'm starting to better understand the perspective that they were writing from and how they were seeing things. Has anyone else shared that?
Oh, yeah, because I can walk through the park and I can feel the trees. I can feel the like personalities or something in them. But without a personality, it's like there's just it's sensations. Like there's, and then we can come up to the labels and the stories of, oh, that tree is happy and oh, that tree is grumpy. It's like, it's weird. I can feel the energies of the trees. It sounds crazy, but it's like when these guards go and we're tapped into the energetics, where I bring people in, which is the core of where story and creation comes from, is this. I can feel just looking out the window right now at my tree, at that. It's amazing. It's amazing because it's not using the head at all.
I had a thing a little while ago, and it was triggered by me watching a science fiction something, I don't even remember what it was now, about parallel worlds or the multiverse. And I went, oh wow, I realized that there is a world that we all live in that is below, none of those words are right, but language, that underneath language. If we get to the, if you an exercise I use when I'm guiding a lot is set a cup in front of you and look at it and look at it until you're immersed in the sensations of color and texture and form. And when you do, let's say it's a white cup, let's say, and you're sitting there looking at a white cup. When your mind quietens down and you stop saying it's a white cup, the label thing, you start to appreciate that white isn't white anymore. What white is a whole range of colors. There are shades of white, and then those shades are sitting on top of a texture, so it's not smooth anymore. It's actually got little bumps, and as you get into that experience of that thing, all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but you will reach a point where words cannot describe it. And so at the moment you try and communicate what's happening to somebody, you got to simplify it. You get right up to a simplistic level and say, oh, it's a white cup. That's the grossest level, right? But the white isn't actually white and smooth isn't actually smooth. And beneath words, there is this appreciation. Well, there's a whole world that is beneath language that we're starting to experience. But of
Which
course,
is why labels are any label, like a fear, even the label fear or the label shame or the label happy, can be anything. Underneath those labels is this whole other world of sensation.
yeah.
Underneath the label cup. And
From what you were saying, Jeremy, that those poets and people are somebody that does experience that world beneath language, but they're trying to communicate it. And so they have to use words, and they come up with these words and this combination of words that are evocative. They're not meant to be taken literally. They're all metaphors or something, you know. Yeah. I had a period of my life where, well, quite a long period, where I just, and I still do, love haiku. Haiku is, you know, you've got 3 lines, you've got 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables, and you've got to express something in that confine. And that is brilliant. That is great for doing exactly what you're talking about, you know. You can just, what you do is you just evoking a feeling. That's what it's about. Yeah. Yeah. But we shouldn't talk too much about this kind of stuff, because everybody then compares themselves to this and says, well, I'm not there yet. So that's a bit of a trap too. Yeah.
You know what it is? It's a mental trap, because the mind thinks it's got to do something to be there. But it's kind of like, you know, when Dawn was saying, I don't know how to feel. That's what I can't do that. It's the same voice. You do know how. You get out of your head and drop in. And that's where it is. Yeah, but the mind's trying to do it, and the mind thinks it can't, and the mind compares, and it's all a story in the head.
I
Go on.
had a conversation with my wife the other day, and it dawned on me that I can't, well, maybe I can, but my like feeling my entire body all at the same time, I can't turn it off anymore. Like I had to like think about it when I first, I think like body scan meditation was the first time I'd experienced that. And it's like my tinnitus, like I can't turn that off, and I can't turn off feeling the sensations in my body. And part of me is like, that's annoying.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting, that one. Yeah. So when you were saying that, I'm saying, oh, that's not my experience. My body doesn't exist unless I focus on it. And my tinnitus, I have tinnitus, and I was totally unaware of it until you said the word tinnitus. The moment I think about it, I can hear it again. But and even though I imagine that it's always there, it's actually not there in my awareness unless I think about it. Yeah, and I guess I'm lucky enough that it's not so loud and insistent that it interferes with things, you know, for which it obviously does for some people. Yeah. Yeah.
I think
All
that
right,
would be
this is
tap in.
this is great stuff, but I'm going to pull the plug because it's Christmas Day here and it's 8 o'clock and the family's stirring, so it's time to go and pretend that Santa Claus is real, I think.
Isn't he?
Oh, right. Yeah. All right. This has been great. This has been always good. Always good. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully I'll see you again next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
No worries.